Hi, welcome back to Know Your Mother's Hobbies. Today we're going to take a look at our next boss miniature in Metal Gear Solid the board game, Sniper Wolf. This is kind of like two miniatures in one with what's going on in the base here. We've got our Sniper Wolf figure and a little wolf guy going on. So that'll be fun to paint up. She got a pretty simple color scheme, but there's a lot of little details and decals that we can take advantage of, and I'll show you how to do that to make her really stand out. So starting off this really simple color scheme aspect is she's got some gray army drabs or fatigues, gray army fatigues. And based on how we did the genome soldiers with their green drab, this is going to be pretty simple and pretty familiar if you've already tackled your. We're going to start things off with our basilicanum gray and just get a gray coverage all over this miniature. Take your time, spot it all out, and for the most part, you don't have to be too neat and tidy, as a lot of this is either going to get hit with some blacks later on, or touched up with some dry brushing, etc. So just go all around and take your time, especially on the area near her chest, as the way she's holding her gun, it makes it a little hard to get in there. So just go around, block that all in, and move on to the blacks here. And we're using Black Templar to start putting those in. And she's got these knee kind of pads, I guess, knee protectors, for laying down in the environment as she uses her rifle and whatnot. At least that's how I imagine it. And I painted a little too much, and later on you'll see that I cleaned that up. The line is quite faint on there. Regardless, there's a lot of little black details that we can pick out, like her gun, her gloves, her elbow pads. We can get those blocked in, those little knee sleeves, and her boots, etc. And here you can see I'm just taking a best match gray that I had lying around, and I'm touching that up. So you can see here where those lines are supposed to actually be. So I hope that helps you guys out when you do yours, as it might be a little tricky to spot it at first glance. I know I had trouble. We're going to follow that up with a dry brush of a lighter gray. I'm using Administratum gray, and just going all around and bringing out a lot of the, details. And we're going to not really be too precise on this, as we can use this to go over the black details that we've done, and that'll help pick out a lot of the highlights and the buckles and the textures on the boots and the laces, etc. And that'll help bring all those little details out as well. Save us some time later on. Once again, like those genome soldiers, we're just going to spot in some highlights. We're not going to pick out every single fold and raised edge here on her clothing or on this miniature, but really just the most prominent ones, the ones that are going to spot your eye the most. Just pick those out and go around and get those topmost surfaces as you do it. And we're going to use Guilliman Flesh for her skin tone. She is a Caucasian woman, so this is how I start my Caucasian skin, my pale skin tones. And don't forget about her little fingies. All throughout this, don't forget, you can touch things up as well. It's just paint if you make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I showed you with those knee sleeves. So take your time. If you need to, take a little break and fix things up. We got just a yellow contrast paint for her hair, and we're going to do the basing. We're going to do something a little different, and we're going to start our basing now, and we're going to put on this Space Wolves Gray to start a sort of tundra wintry look, as well as get some gray on this winter wolf. So for layering up, we're going to start with Gray Seer, and we're just going to do another dry brush. This is going to be just a little bit more brighter than the Administratum or the one that we did before. So just go around and pick out some of those areas to just make pop a little more brighter. And once more, we're going to use our brush and go in, picking out little edges that maybe the dry brush didn't get, or that we want to have the cleaner highlights. And also, again, just restricting it to, not every single fold, not every single raised part, just the ones that are going to be catching your eye the most or are the most on top. We're also going to start brightening up this pad on the end of her elbow pads, as we're going to paint that brighter and whiter later on. Now her skin I thought was already pretty light, so I skipped putting down our usual Cadian flesh tone, and I skipped right ahead to Kislev flesh, and just started highlighting from there. One thing I did notice is that she was a little too pale for my liking, at least in the cheek areas. So I just added a little more under her cheeks of the Gulliman flesh contrast paint, and around her hairline, etc., just to give some more warmth to her features. And once that was dried and all done, we came in with Pallid Witch Flesh to get our most brightest skin highlight that I like to do. Just picking out the raised edges, the nose, the brow, the cheeks, etc. And as you saw, the fingers. The fingers you really want to stand out because, well, she's one of the only figures with fingerless gloves. We're going to use Bold Titanium White here. Like I said before, we're brightening up these elbow pads. We're just going to use that to start to do that, as well as pick out some extra details around the miniature, like these foxhound logos. Now, if you have a miniature like mine, you might have a gnarly mold line running down that area. I know I did, and this patch here was a little morphed, malformed as compared to the other one. A little harder to pick out. Just do your best. It's kind of going to be one of those things where we're going to give the illusion of the foxhound logo. And of course, you saw me put some extra little details in there, like that lens on her scope, and we're dry brushing this winter wolf. You can also dry brush some of her hair detail as well. If you do choose to do this, do not do too much, as you want to avoid making her hair dusty. Now for our extra touches, we have a whole shebang. We've started a couple of them in the layering phase. If you wanted to end there, you totally could, but these last ones are really going to take what we've started and get it that extra mile, make it a lot more standout and interesting. So we're going to start things off with those L'Oreal highlights, following that with our Eandon yellow again to pick out the foxhound fox part of the logo, which is that central blob. I'm also going to use this to clean up some of that hair, as I felt it was a little too dusty in areas, a little too bright, and I wanted to bring back some of those shadowed areas and break it up a little more. I'm using Frostheart here to pick out that lens once more, and that's just going to give it a nice pop of color. She's very gray monotone on this figure, so this is really going to stand out and draw our eye. And I'm also using our white to just add some extra dots to that lens, make it look like it's shining. I have some chrome here. We're just going straight to the chrome, no other metals going on, and we're just going to pick out some interesting details on the gun. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I thought some of those little bolts and slides and whatnot were good to pick out, as well as her buckle and zipper. I'm using Null Oil Gloss, and this paint does not exist anymore, bears repeating all the time, so just use a dark tone or a black shade paint with some gloss paint added in or followed up on, and pick out some of the areas you want glossy. I wanted her knee sleeves glossy, as well as picking out those metallic parts that I had before. I'm going to use Black Templar here for the nose of our winter wolf. Just picking that out. Pretty easy. And I'm also going to use this to fine line some of the detail around, some of the recessed detail around that foxhound patches. On either side, remember there's two of them, so, take your time and you can always fix it up. It's not that hard, it's just a little, white followed by yellow splash. Some fleshy tones in the ears and the mouth. And we have Caribird Crimson here for the makeup that I always like to do. Lastly, we're going to black rim this miniature, and that'll finish it off. That's it. You made it. And there you have it, our Sniper Wolf miniature all painted up. Told you this one was going to be pretty simple, but I hope you can also see how by picking out some of those little details she has on her uniform and on the sculpt, that we can really make her stand out and not just be a bland, boring, monochromatic figure. Now, I was tempted, I gotta say, to be very accurate to the original artwork and even the Twin Snakes video game and make her hair a little greeny, but I do know that is probably a symptom of the lighting being very blue in the environment. And regardless, you can't go wrong with a very bright yellow blonde. That is going to stand out for sure. And that wolf, as a reminder, you can do any kind of wolf you want to do. I chose a winter wolf just because of the time I had to paint this week. It was a little simpler to do. I want to point something out that I didn't do in the tutorial, as it was very hard to do on camera. She does have a little collar that I poked from underneath her raised gun. It was very tricky to get, so I did not show it on camera. I am mentioning it here. If you feel brave, put that little collar that she has on. I just used a Black Templar and was very cautious, and I lucked out and got it in one try. Always special thanks to my patron supporters. Thanks to everybody who watches. You guys are golden and really make me feel comfortable to do the videos I want to do. It doesn't have to be 40k or whatever the current Zeitgeist meme game is. And I appreciate you guys for that. Thanks as always. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!